Whether the team is performing clean or unsightly, we'll cover it all here on Washington Football Nightly. I, of course, am your host, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. Let's get to tonight's lead story. So, I've talked about this for over a week. I reiterated this yesterday, and it was kind of a throwaway line yesterday as we were talking about the injury situation, looking at the injury report, and I said, I don't know what this team is doing. They're mismanaging their IR situation. They should have put Cole Holcomb on IR after his week 1 injury. He's going to play for the first time since week 1. It's week 5. That's 3 weeks. He would have been eligible to come off of IR. They didn't use it there. Instead, they allowed him to take up a roster spot. You look at Steven Sims. Hasn't been right since week 2 in Arizona. They played him in week 3. I think that was a mistake. But now he's been out the last 2 weeks. Well, this upcoming week he's going to be out. And he was out last week. And he hasn't been at practice. Not a single time. No one has seen Steven Sims with the toe injury. And I said, this is a lot more serious than they're leading on. And so why not put him on IR? It doesn't make any sense. He's taking up a roster spot. Finally, Washington obliges. They heard my cries and my pleas, and they put Steven Sims on IR because this is a serious toe injury. And for a guy like Steven Sims, who is really reliant on his toes, especially your big toe, you gotta put this guy on IR and let him fully heal. He won't be effective unless he's fully healthy. So, look, with thin at receiver, it is what it is. So roster moves have been made. Steven Sims Jr. officially placed on IR with the toe injury, with the designation to return at some point this season. So then you get Joshua Garnett, the offensive guard, former first-round pick out of Stanford by the San Francisco 49ers that we signed midway through training camp to come in, and he's going to be elevated to the active roster to take Steven Sims' spot. And now the spot on the practice squad that becomes available from Garnett being elevated to the active roster is going to be occupied by place kicker Kare Vedvik, who, if you remember, had a ridiculous preseason 1 year with the Baltimore Ravens. I thought this guy was going to blow up as a kicker. Obviously, the Baltimore Ravens have the best kicker, I think, in NFL history, potentially, if he keeps going on the way that he's been going in Justin Tucker. And so history is a really big statement because there's Adam Vinatieri and other guys that have been ridiculously good kickers and accurate, like Morton Anderson and Gary Anderson for years. So to say he's the best of all time, but I've never seen anything like what I'm seeing out of Justin Tucker. The distance, the accuracy, and it's not even close. It's not like he's coming close to missing kicks. He just hasn't had the exposure to big moments like Adam Vinatieri has in his career. But I'm off topic. You know I can do that from time to time. The bottom line is Kare Vedvik was in Baltimore's camp a couple of years ago, and he lit it up in preseason. Was bombing it from like 58 and 60 and crazy, ridiculous lengths. And I'm thinking, well, Baltimore's already got their guy in Justin Tucker. This guy can't make their roster. If I'm in the year previous, there were some teams with some issues kicking, like Oakland, like Atlanta, like Chicago, and I was saying, hey, if I'm one of these clubs, I'm reaching out to Baltimore and saying, hey, what is it going to take? Can I slide you a 6 for this kid? Maybe a 7th. What is it going to take for me to? You can't keep him. What is it going to take for me to get him off your hands so I don't have to fight with everybody else to sign this guy? And he ultimately was traded for, I think, like Buffalo ended up trading for him. It didn't work in Buffalo. He wasn't accurate there. He ended up somewhere else. It didn't work there either. And now he's in Washington on the practice squad. And so some roster moves have been made. I'm now officially worried about the offensive line. And we'll talk more about the impact of this offensive line and some of the injuries that have occurred on the offensive line a little bit later on in the show. But I will start by saying Wes Schweitzer has an elbow. We talked about that yesterday when we looked at the injury report. And he's a questionable decision for Sunday. I'm worried, but I'm like, we can get by if he can't go. But now I hear Chase Roullier is dealing with the knee, and he wasn't previously on the injury report. Now I'm nervous because now you're telling me that the two of my interior offensive linemen are going to be at best 75% going into this game, at best, against the best defensive player I've ever seen in my lifetime. Again, Lawrence Taylor wasn't in my lifetime. It wasn't in my sweet spot. I got the tail end of Lawrence Taylor when he wasn't the same guy. I know Lawrence Taylor's impact. And had I been alive 10 years prior, I would be saying that Aaron Donald's the second best defensive player that I've ever seen. But I wasn't alive 10 years prior. So Lawrence Taylor isn't number one for me, even though I understand the impact that he had. And if you're asking me to rank these guys, I would rank Lawrence Taylor ahead of Aaron Donald. But I'm just talking about guys that I've seen with my own two eyes on a consistent week in, week out basis for years. Aaron Donald is the most destructive force I've ever seen. And now you're telling me two of our interior offensive linemen are banged up for this game. And even if they play, they're not 100%. That's not good news. So I'm officially worried about the offensive line on Sunday. I know some of you were worried long before you found out about the injury situation. I keep telling you guys, and the film doesn't lie, that this offensive line hasn't been that bad. I keep telling you this. You guys can listen if you want. But I keep telling you, this offensive line hasn't been bad. It hasn't been as bad. It wasn't good in week 1. It wasn't good in week 2. I will grant you that. But it wasn't as bad as you thought in week 2. And it was much better in week 3. And it was just as solid in week 4. And again, I'm telling you, this line is fine. But with these injuries, it could present a problem. And so that's something to keep an eye on. But the bigger news here, the bigger story is Steven Sims officially placed on IR. And, you know, it's crazy because I talked about this. And I saw a tweet from JP Finley today. And it got me to thinking about how, you know, I made this same statement some 3 months ago when we first learned of the injury to Kelvin Harmon. And remember, I told you I felt good all offseason. I told you everyone's sleeping on this wide receiver core. It's young, I get it, but it's Terry McLaurin, it's Kelvin Harmon, it's Steven Sims, and now it's Antonio Gandy Golden. I feel good about this group. They're young, they're hungry, they're talented. The league is going to find out. And then in one fell swoop, Kelvin Harmon was snatched from us with a torn ACL. And it's like all of my hope for this wide receiver group, all of my bullishness for this group kind of went down the drain. And you remember, I don't know if you recall, but when he got injured and we started to assess the receiver group, it's crazy because Kelvin Harmon is nothing more than a third option in this league. It's not like this guy is this wonderful number 2 option like he's Calvin Ridley or something. He's Kelvin Harmon. He showed us some things last year, just like Steven Sims showed us some things last year. We haven't seen squat from Steven Sims. Before he got injured, he wasn't really doing much. Some of that could be on the quarterback. Some of that could be on the offensive line. Whatever the case may be, he wasn't being ultra productive. He wasn't the Steven Sims that we fell in love with, just like Dwayne Haskins wasn't the Dwayne Haskins we fell in love with last year. So who's to know if Kelvin Harmon was even going to do anything? But I just felt a lot less confident and sure about this receiver group after he got injured. And Dontrell Inman has been fine. But it's amazing the amount of confidence I had in this group when Kelvin Harmon was slated to be a part of it. And JP Finley said it's amazing how big of a loss Kelvin Harmon has become as this season has worn on. And I made that observation in August when we first found out about his injury. In July, matter of fact, I think was when we found out because we were about to come to training camp when we found out he had torn his ACL. I made that observation then that, man, we're really going to miss this guy. And it's turned out to be factual, but other guys have stepped up. Inman has stepped up. Isaiah Wright has stepped up. And even in the absence of Steven Sims, I feel like we've done a good enough job of circumventing his loss to this offense. And we're going to need Antonio Gandy Golden to step up now. Like I told you, I hated the injury to Kelvin Harmon for him specifically because it was going to force people like me who didn't want to do this to him to have to do this to him. And I told you, I didn't want to expect a lot from AGG in his rookie season. I didn't. I wanted him to just go along merrily on his way in his rookie season. If he gave us something, great. If he didn't, we'd say, all right, man, you got a year under your belt. You had a redshirt year. Now what do you have for us in year 2? But I wanted him to be able to be comfortable in year 1, whatever was asked of him, whether a lot was put on his plate or not enough was put on his plate or just enough was put on his plate and he wasn't ultra productive either way. I wanted him to be comfortable in that. Now, I told you, when the injury to Harmon happened, I said, I hate to do this to you, Antonio Gandy Golden. The Gandhi man. I hate to do this to you. Bruh, I'm going to need you to step up this year. And then he got injured in camp, and it really slowed his development. And I was like, bruh, I understand. You didn't have a bunch of time in camp. You've been battling an injury. You got the concussion. That kept you out a little while. I understand all that. Bruh, we need your production. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. So now that Steven Sims has officially been put on IR, and you're looking at this offense, and you see the promise. The jet sweep against the Browns a couple of weeks ago was money. It was lovely. I need him to step up. He wasn't a big factor. I felt like they were getting comfortable with him against the Browns. Then he had the drop on the bootleg out to the right. And it's almost like all the confidence that they had in him went away. And after that, we really haven't seen him have opportunities to touch the football. For whatever the reason, okay? But starting with week 5 against the Rams, I need Antonio Gandy Golden to show up. And we'll talk about that a little bit later on in the show. But we're gonna progress now to in other news. And Ron Rivera stepped to the podium today. Had a presser after practice. I'll talk about what was said there here in a second. But as normal, as customarily done here on the program, I want to first take a look at our last look for week 5 with the injury situation for both teams. As I mentioned yesterday, the Rams are on the West Coast. So the injury report for them not out right now at the time the recording of this show. So don't have Friday's status for some of their players, but I do have Thursday. But let's take a look at the injury report heading into week number 5. So this is what it looks like right now for Washington as you look at this group. So this is what we know right now. And as you can see, Wednesday and Thursday on the screen in front of you, I'm going to give you Friday's status for these guys. So Marcus Ball, who's up first on this list, he's going to be out for Sunday with a non-injury related situation. And we found out at the presser today from Ron Rivera that he had a death in the family, which is why he hasn't been at practice all week and ultimately will not play. So I was wrong about him. I thought he'd be back in time for Sunday's game, but obviously a death in the family will definitely do that to you. And thoughts and prayers go out to him and his family, and hopefully he'll be able to come back and help at some point, but he needs to take care of family matters right now. Dontrell Inman, a limited participant yesterday after not practicing at all on Wednesday. He is going to go on Sunday, and I thought that would be the case, but I was a little nervous because I had no idea that he had injured his foot in the game. This wasn't like 2 weeks ago against the Browns where he went off the field holding his wrist like fine china, and so I didn't know he got injured in this game, but he did. But he's going to go. He was a full participant in practice on Friday. So all systems go for Dontrell Inman. That's great news because, again, we cannot afford any more injuries at the wide receiver position. Speaking of wide receivers and being all systems go, Terry McLaurin was limited yesterday, full participant today. Much like last week, he's going to go on Sunday versus the Rams, and he'll have a steep test ahead of him as Jalen Ramsey is now up to bat to take his shot at Terry McLaurin. And it's amazing looking at the corners that Terry has had to deal with these first 5 weeks of the season. You start with Darius Slay in week 1. You go to Patrick Peterson week 2. You go to Denzel Ward week 3. You go to a split of Marcus Peters and Marlon Humphrey in week 4. And now you progress to Jalen Ramsey. He hasn't had a break yet. He hasn't seen an inferior corner this season. And the fact that he's putting up the numbers that he's putting up, we're going to have a discussion about Terry as a number one here shortly, because I had a chance to listen to, because I told you I'm behind on the Kevin Sheehan Show podcast. I just got through the episode where he does his film breakdown on the offense for the Browns game, and he talked about Terry, and he had a really extensive conversation about Terry as a number one. I'm going to play that for you on this show at some point, whether it's next week or down the road. I'm going to play that, and we're going to have a discussion about Terry McLaurin. I feel one way, he feels another. I first of all, I need you to understand, I value very highly the opinion of Chris Cooley. I do. I really take what he has to say to heart because I learned a lot of football from him. You know, a lot of concepts and what quarterbacks are looking at through the eyes of a tight end. I got to learn a lot about the nuances of an offense. So that's why I'm able to explain a lot of this stuff to you. I learned just about everything I know about football and the intricacies of the receiver position and how offenses work from one of my high school coaches. And then Chris Cooley took the knowledge that I had and he expanded it vastly. So I really respect Chris Cooley, and I understand what he was saying in his conversation about Terry McLaurin, but I don't agree with that, and I'll tell you why down the road. But Terry's going to play in this football game, and that right now is all you need to be concerned with. You get to Wes Schweitzer. He is right now listed as questionable. This is a guy that I told you has been playing some quality football, man. I've been really impressed with Wes Schweitzer coming in for Brandon Sheriff. And if he can't go, that is a devastating blow up front. Keep in mind that now we've got an extra guy added to the list that you don't see in front of you that I talked about earlier in the show. Speaking of which, you've got Chase Rouillet added to this injury report now. So I'll just go ahead and give it to you now. He's dealing with a knee injury that he sustained in practice yesterday. So all of a sudden, the interior of this offensive line is looking really shaky, and this is not the week for that. With 99 coming to town, it could get ugly fast for Kyle Allen in his first start as Washington football team quarterback if they are not careful. As you move on, Steven Sims Jr., as I mentioned, officially placed on IR, so he's definitely out. So is Greg Stroman out of this game as well with a foot injury. It did not look good when he left the field after the first punt of the game versus the Ravens. Hasn't practiced all week, and he looks like he's going to be out for a considerable amount of time as well, but we will keep our eyes peeled on that. Chase Young, this one is interesting because some of you guys don't seem to understand the impact that Chase Young has on this defense. This defense, with Chase Young in the lineup, this defense has the potential to be a top 12 defense. With Chase Young out of the lineup, this defense is like the 25th or 24th ranked defense in the league. That's the difference Chase Young makes. We can't get pressure on the quarterback. Nobody's afraid of us. It's the same defense we had last year if you take Chase Young out of the mix. It's really simple. The only difference is our secondary is probably a little bit better this year than it was last year. But if you take Chase Young out of the mix, we look eerily similar to what we were last year as a defense. We lack the game-changing defender that teams game plan to stop. If you watched him early in that Cleveland game, they were game planning to stop Chase Young. They were altering the way they wanted to run offense to try to gear their offensive approach to stopping Chase Young. We don't have another guy that the offense has to do that against if Chase Young's not on the field. So him playing is massive. I still contend that he doesn't play, but right now he's listed as questionable in this game, and we'll see what happens. But I think he's going to play. I really do. Jonathan Allen, full go yesterday. He's going to play in this game. He's not even listed on the injury report in terms of whether he's going to play or not. But Cole Holcomb, surprisingly, is listed as a questionable decision for Sunday. After having a full practice Wednesday and Thursday, I was kind of surprised and taken aback that he was even listed as questionable. I thought he would have been in the same category with Jonathan Allen, where you're not even mentioning him anymore. But as of right now, Cole Holcomb is listed as questionable, and it has me worrying. Was there a setback? Was there a little bit of swelling? Was there some tenderness, some soreness after Thursday's practice that led them to believe that let's not assume that he's going to play? I don't know. We'll see, but that's a guy that I'm really looking forward to seeing get back on the field because I think we can use his speed at the linebacker position because Thomas Davis, as I told you after the Browns game, he's really, really slow these days. And I think we could use some more youth out there. And I think Cole Holcomb is a guy that we were excited about last year, and I would like to see him in this Jack Del Rio defense. So that is the injury report for the football team. As you then turn your attention to the Rams side of things, look, I told you Aaron Donald is playing, so don't worry about him. Bobby Evans is essentially your backup tackle on the right side of the offensive line. If Rob Havenstein is good, which I assume he is, then Bobby Evans isn't starting anyway. So that's not a major injury there. Micah Kiser is a major injury. He's been their best linebacker this season, and he didn't practice yesterday or Wednesday for that matter. I don't think he's going to play. A groin is nothing to play with. As we know, Chase Young dealing with a groin issue here on our side of things. So Micah Kiser looks like he's going to be out, and that's a big miss for them because, again, he was playing the best at the linebacker position for the Rams this season. Tackle Andrew Whitworth, non-injury related, came back to practice yesterday and was a full participant. He's going to go. Kenny Young, a linebacker that they traded for from the Ravens last year, is a guy that they do rely on defense, and he was limited yesterday. That's something to keep an eye on, whether he can go or not. If you take him and Micah Kiser out of the lineup, it really does hurt them at the linebacker position, so that's something to keep an eye on. Cam Akers looks like he's going to play with the rib injury that he sustained in Week 3. He missed Week 4, but as a matter of fact, I think he missed Weeks 3 and 4. I think he sustained that injury in Week number 2 versus the Eagles and hasn't played since. Looks like he's going to be back, full participant yesterday. I assume he'll play in Week number 5. Jordan Fuller is a guy that is a rookie, undrafted out of Ohio State. I believe he was undrafted. He might be a late-round draft pick. I think he was a late-round draft pick now that I'm thinking about it. Out of Ohio State. With a shoulder injury, full participant Wednesday, full participant Thursday. Tells you all you need to know. More likely than not, he's going to play on Sunday. And cornerback Troy Hill was not initially on the injury report. He just showed up on it yesterday, was limited in practice with an ankle injury. He's a guy that is the starting corner opposite Jalen Ramsey when healthy. But I've been seeing a lot of this Darius Williams fella out here, and he's actually been playing some credible football, has Darius Williams. So even if Troy Hill isn't able to go, they've still got a guy out there that's playing confident football in Darius Williams. So I don't know if that Troy Hill injury has as much impact as it would have had Darius Williams not been playing some confident football at the cornerback position. So I digress. That's the Rams injury report as we get back to in other news. And we talk about what Rivera had to say. And he had a couple of items that were gems that he offered up that I had no idea about. And I'll start with the one that caught me by surprise the most because it almost led off the show as our lead story. It was that juicy of a tidbit that was almost a throwaway line from Rhiannon Walker of The Athletic when she asked the question. But I had no knowledge of this. Maybe I should have. Maybe you heard this, but I didn't. So Rhiannon Walker said, and Ron had talked about this. He had alluded to the players on the team having an issue with some of the things that were being done. He talked about the players having a problem with the offense not being as effective and how he could see the faces of the players on the sidelines, and he could see that the team was starting to become a little disgruntled at the way things were going, and he felt like he needed to make a change from that standpoint as well. What he did not divulge, or at least I didn't get this from him, is that the players also were unhappy about his lack of timeout usage, and that they came to Ron and they voiced their opinion to Ron about his lack of timeouts. And he changed that. If you realize, he changed that in the Baltimore game. They called their timeouts at the end of that game. He tried to get the football back and tried to do some things late in that game despite it being out of hand. So I didn't know that. Rhiannon Walker brought it up, and Ron said, she asked essentially, what does it mean that your players feel that confident that they can come to you and that coming to you would foster change, which it has, with the move to go to Kyle Allen and also, you trying to win some of these games at the end by using your timeouts. And, Ron didn't buck off at that. If he didn't think some of that was true, if he thought some of that was a misrepresentation of what was going on, he would have said so. And no, he just answered the question and said, yeah, That's what we are looking to do here. There are a lot of things that when I got here that weren't right. And so, I'm trying to foster a culture where it's an open door policy. If guys have a problem with something, they know where my office is. They can come and talk to me. And, I want to hear their voices and I want them to understand. And it's funny that, you hear Ron say this because I was reading an article yesterday about Bill O'Brien and what got him fired in Houston. And one of the quotes from one of the players in the locker room, an anonymous player, obviously, but one of the quotes from the players was that we felt muzzled. We felt like our voices were muzzled, and we felt like we didn't have any say-so in anything that was going on. And we felt like we were essentially being controlled, but we didn't have any control over anything that was being done. Because if you're a player and you see something going on the field, you come off to the sidelines, you tell your coach, hey, this is what I'm seeing. We need to make this adjustment. And they didn't feel like there was any wiggle room. It was like a dictatorship. And, he was on his power trip, was Bill O'Brien. And Ron wants to foster the direct opposite in terms of culture, where he wants guys like, just because you say something doesn't mean we're going to do it. I'm still in charge. I'm the head coach. But, you want to have that open door policy. And he pretty much said that. And I had no idea that the players were upset. Now, I told you how I felt as a competitor. I told you I am one hell of a competitor. In terms of losing, I hate it. I'm a sore loser. I've explained this already. My girl doesn't like being my partner in spades at times because I take it too seriously. It's not just a game to me. I need to win. And I'm not one of those people that cheat to win. But anything that I can do to gain an advantage to win, I'm not going to break the rules to do it. I do have integrity, all right, but I want to win. At all costs, I want to win. I don't care what I'm doing. And I think I've already explained this to you guys before. And not to go off on a tangent, but just to give you an idea of just how outrageous sometimes my desire to win can be. I was tutoring a 6-year-old, sweet little girl, all right, second grade. And we were playing tic-tac-toe. We were waiting for her mom to pick her up. And so we were passing the time playing tic-tac-toe. And I was destroying her in tic-tac-toe. She's 6, okay? Sometimes I feel bad when I tell this story. But then again, the inner demon that is inside of me, that competitive inner demon says, no, you're not. And he's right. I'm not. So I see her getting discouraged after I've beaten her like 7 times in a row. And, the little nice angel on my shoulder says, and I don't know, which one is it? The id? I forget what they're called. But the good one says, hey, man, she's 6. Let her win one. And I said, yeah, you know what? You're right. And then the bad one on the other shoulder said, what are you talking about? We're not losing to a 6-year-old. And so I got this internal struggle going on in my head. And I put down my O, and then she puts down her X. And then I put down my other O in a random spot that I would never put it. But it's still set up for me to have tic-tac-toe. But I've left the door wide open for her to win. All I've got to do, she puts her X down, and all I've got to do is put my O in the opposite corner. I've got 3 in a row right here. But if I put my O up top here, she's got 3 X's straight across. All right. And so all I've got to do is just put my O in a random spot and she wins. And as I went to put my O in a random spot, my hand started to shake. And I'm trying to get the pencil to the spot where I need to put it in, and I just put the O and got tic-tac-toe. I said, oh, you almost got me. I need to win. The players on the field need to win. They're competitors. You don't get to this level of the NFL without being a competitor. At least most guys don't. Some guys like Jay Cutler, smoking Jay, you win, you lose, who cares? I'm getting paid. Some guys do have that mentality, but most guys want to win. And so I'm glad they went to Ron and said, this isn't good enough. We're down 2 scores. We want to have a shot. Call your timeouts. We saw the Cowboys game a couple of weeks ago. We don't want to give up. Yeah, I know this is a season in which we're trying to figure some things out. But at the same time, we can do that while trying to win. You don't have to stop trying to win games. So that was news to me. He also talked about Dwayne. He said, look, I'm not giving up on Dwayne. I don't believe that for 1 second. But it sounds good. He talked about how just because Dwayne isn't playing doesn't mean he can't be involved and still learn. And again, I've seen all your tweets. I had people hit me up on IG and on Twitter showing me that Dwayne has unfollowed the team. That's what young boys do, okay? That's the new thing. That's all the rage in sports now. When your team pisses you off, I remember when Jordan Howard was looking for some clarity with the Bears. Were you going to trade me? What are you going to do? He took all of his Bear stuff off of his social media platforms. Everything. Scrubbed it clean. The same thing was done with a wide receiver that was looking for a trade. Jamal Adams did the same thing with the Jets. Like, this is what these young guys do when they're displeased with something that their team does or they want out. That's what you do. You scrub it clean and you move forward. That's your way of sending a message. It's cryptic, but because it's been done so many times, it's no longer cryptic. We know what that means. So, and he obviously he wanted someone to see it because he took screenshots of it. And that's how people have that. If it is, in fact, those aren't doctored photos, it is what it is. I don't care. That doesn't bother me one bit. All right. You can either be a victim in this situation or you can some way, somehow find a way to come out of this thing as a hero. You got one or two options. You can feel sorry for yourself, wallow in self-pity, or you can find a way to get better from this situation, learn from it. And you may learn that this is a dysfunctional organization and it wasn't the right spot for you and you need to go somewhere else. And maybe that's what you take from this and you say, hey, I do have to be better. I do need to be the first one in, last one to leave, that type of thing. That's what you do if you come out of this thing on the other side better because of it. If you want to wallow in self-pity and you want to be woe is me, then you'll be the victim and you won't learn anything and you'll be out of the league in 3 or 4 years. So we'll see how he handles this. I'm rooting for him. I am. Whether it's here or somewhere else, I want him to be successful. It'll sting a little bit if he's successful somewhere else, but that would be a problem on our end, not his. So at the end of the day, Ron talked about the weather. It could be a factor. It looks like it's supposed to rain. The forecast calls for rain on Sunday. Not looking forward to a rainy, sloppy game, especially with Kyle Allen having his first start for Washington. I would like it to be a nice sunny day like it was last week at FedEx Field. But, you can't control Mother Nature. If she decides it's going to be wet and nasty, that's what it's going to be. It doesn't make it any easier to block Aaron Donald, but we'll see what happens. So, Ron was pretty direct, and he talked about Isaiah Wright and said, look, it's been really impressive what he's been able to do because of COVID situation, no offseason for the most part, no preseason games. It's a long shot for the guys that were undrafted to make a football team, but he's been so impressive that not only has he made the football team, but he's actually a key contributor now with some of the injuries. So he talked about his growth. And then he talked about Antonio Gandy-Golden, and he said, you know what? Yeah, Antonio Gandy-Golden would have been a lot better off had there been more of an offseason, a preseason, and he didn't get hurt, in training camp. But he's starting to come along. He's starting to make strides, and they feel really good about him. And that's a great segue to our keys to the game as we get to our final outcome for week number 5. So I'm going to give you a quick, brief breakdown of what needs to be done on both sides of the football for Washington to have a chance in this game, and then I'll give you my score and more in this football game. Let's get to Washington's O versus the Rams defense. And so the first thing you have to do if you're Washington is block Aaron Donald. Number 99 is the best in the business. He destroys football games. I watched him systematically take apart the Buffalo Bills interior and almost single-handedly help will them to a victory when they were down by 25 points to the Bills, 28-3. They got hot offensively. Aaron Donald got hot defensively, destroyed 2 drives in a row, including a sack strip and a recovery of a fumble that put the Rams in position to take the lead in that ball game. He was unblockable in that second half. And if you don't block Aaron Donald, and look, teams double team. This is the thing that makes him so unique and elite and the best defender I've ever seen on the defensive side of the football, is that he's consistently double teamed and he consistently beats double teams. I've never seen anything like it. Usually, if you want to take a guy out of a game plan, 2 players are enough. You assign 2 guys to 1 player, that's enough to stunt that player's impact on the game. Not Aaron Donald. The only way to stop him is if you put a 3rd defender on him. But now you put 3 guys on 1 player, you're really altering your offensive game plan and how you're going to execute. So it's going to be tough, man. This guy is otherworldly. I've never seen anything like this. And so the first thing you got to do is block Aaron Donald. The next thing Washington has to do on offense is block Aaron Donald. I've never seen anything like this guy before. He's tremendous. And I watched him destroy Buffalo in a game where he forced a fumble. He was able to get to Josh Allen a couple times in the second half of the game, almost brought them back single-handedly. So if you're Washington, you got to stop this guy. And I've seen him beat double teams consistently. You have to stop Aaron Donald if you want any chance to be successful on the offensive side of the football. The next thing you have to do is block Aaron Donald. I watched this guy. He's so good. I've never seen anything like it before. This is a guy that I've seen beat double teams on a consistent basis and wreck game plans. I watched him against Buffalo a couple of weeks ago. It was crazy how he took over the game. Nobody can seem to block this guy. He's a walking 2-sack-a-game defender. You got to block Aaron Donald. The next thing they have to do on offense, I think you get where I'm going with this, is take advantage of the Rams secondary, okay? This is a secondary that I think is vulnerable. They've got some good players back there. You know, some guys that I really like. I like John Johnson at safety. I like Taylor Rapp at safety. I love Jalen Ramsey at cornerback, even though he's a head case. They've got some good football players. However, I do think you can take advantage of their secondary. I think you can throw the football. Now, again, they're going to take Jalen Ramsey and assign him to Terry McLaurin, and wherever 17 goes, 20 will follow. So I think you have to find ways to still get Terry involved, but also I think you have to get other guys involved as well, and you can't be afraid to go after Jalen Ramsey. Speaking of which, the next key to the game is don't be afraid of Jalen Ramsey. Yeah, he's good. He's damn good. And as long as you are measured in your approach, you can take shots at him. I watched Michael Gallup beat him on a deep ball late in that Dallas game, and he flopped and got an offensive pass interference call. I watched him give up a touchdown. I watched Stephon Diggs abuse him in that Buffalo game earlier in the season. He's beatable. It just doesn't happen very often. So you have to be careful because he's nosy and he wants to make plays. But at the same time, there are plays there to be made against Jalen Ramsey. Don't be afraid to take your shots when they come. All right. But at the same time, spread around the wealth. And to me, the way that you do that is this next key to the game. Establish your running backs as playmakers. They can't just be running backs. We've talked too much about this offense that Scott Turner has that was so predicated on Christian McCaffrey's production, not just as a running back, but his ability to catch it out of the backfield. You go out and sign J.D. McKissic because you think he brings some of that Christian McCaffrey, Jerick McKinnon type of dynamic to the offense. You go out and draft Antonio Gibson because he gives you some more of that versatility vibe that you're looking for. And we haven't seen enough of it. I want to see these guys actually sent into motion. You get a linebacker walked out on him, and you take advantage of a one-on-one situation. I don't think we've seen enough two running back formations. We saw a lot of it in week one, and I told you going into week one, expect a ton of two-back formations with both McKissic and Gibson on the field. I don't think we've seen a ton of it since. We may have seen it twice or three times, in any given game, but it's not enough. These guys are both playmakers. We don't have enough of them, so you should be trying to maximize J.D. McKissic and Antonio Gibson. Gibson has shown you he can make plays when you put the football in his hands. Same with J.D. McKissic. They need more opportunities to touch the football. I think you have to use your running backs as playmakers in this football game. When I watched the Bills against the Rams, when I watched the Eagles versus the Rams, I saw opportunities for Miles Sanders, who had a solid game in his first game of the season. And I saw Devin Singletary have a massive game against the Rams. You can do some things with the running backs against this Rams defense, and they're down their best linebacker or one of their best linebackers and could be down another backer. So I think the running backs need to be a huge part of this game plan. If you're Washington, you have to find ways to get them involved in this offense, and I think they will in this football game. I think it's got to be AGG time. You down with AGG? Yeah, you know me. I'm down with AGG. What about you and everybody? Are you down with AGG? I hope so, because it's time. It's AGG time. It's time for him to step up and start becoming. Isaiah Wright jumped right in, and he started to contribute. Now, he wasn't doing anything extravagant or intricate, but it was still right in immediate production. We need Antonio Gandy Golden to be a bigger part of this offense. And I'm putting the onus on Scott Turner to dial up a couple of opportunities for him. And I'm putting the onus on Kyle Allen. When those opportunities present themselves, you give the young fella a shot. I want to see 10 get at least 3 or 4 targets in this game, or at least 3 or 4 touches. One of the two. I'll take either one. I just want him to be a bigger part of the offense, because he's got to grow up a lot faster than we intended. But because of the circumstances, we're going to need his production. We're going to need someone to take some of that coverage away from Terry. I think he's a guy that could potentially do that as well. So I'd like to see a little bit more of Antonio Gandy Golden. And then lastly, you got to protect the football. It's not something that I should have to say, but I have to say it. You know, we had another turnover last week offensively. You can't shoot yourself in the foot. It may be a rainy, wet day. Protect the football. Take care of the football. If you turn it over, you're going to lose the game. And we're not good enough right now to overcome turnovers. Got to protect the football. And if you're Kyle Allen, this is the last thing. Don't try to do too much. I know you want to come in, seize control of this quarterback position, and you want to show everybody that you deserve this opportunity, and that the playmakers on the field are more than enough. And this offense called by Scott Turner is a good one. And that the offensive struggles were Dwayne. It wasn't this offense. And it wasn't the playmakers on the field. And it wasn't the offensive line. You want to go out and you want to show all of that stuff. You have to take care of the football, though. If you go out and you try to do too much and you turn it over twice, you'll be on the bench very quickly. So protect the football. That goes for the running backs, receivers, Kyle Allen, everyone associated with touching the football. Protect the Duke. You get to the Rams O versus our defense, and this is massive, because if we're going to have any chance in this game, any whatsoever, you're going to have to limit the Rams offensively like the Giants did a week ago, like Dallas did in week 1. You can't be like the Eagles in week 2, and you can't be like the Bills in week 3 and surrender 30-plus to this team, or you'll lose. We're not capable of doing that. We haven't scored 30 all season long. So you don't want to play in the mid to high 20s into the 30s. You want to play in the low 20s if you're Washington, to give yourself a chance in this game. And so first things first, you got to stop the run. Sean McVay wants to run the football. They want everything to look the same. They want their run action to match their run game. They want to stretch you, and then they want to stick their foot in the ground, cut back. You have to be disciplined in your cutback lanes and your pursuits on the backside of plays. You got to be able to stop their running attack. The Giants did it last week, and that was the reason they were in the game, because it made their play action fake and their bootleg insignificant. When you shut down their run, it makes it less likely that you're going to bite up on run action fake. And now all of a sudden, that window that's open over the middle of the field for that deep dig that they want to hit to Cooper Kupp, it's not open now, because the linebackers are non-responsive to the fake. So you have to be able to stop the run. If the run is gashing you, then you're going to react to Jared Goff turning around and looking like he's going to hand that ball off. And you're going to take a couple of false steps, and then he's going to throw it right behind you, right over your head, and it's going to be a chunk play. Got to keep contained. That's the next thing. Got to stay on the outsides. How many bootlegs they're going to run in this game? At least 12. At least. That's a minimum of 12 bootlegs. You're going to see Jared Goff stick it in, pull it out, and come back to the outside. You've got to be waiting on. And this is a Ryan Kerrigan type of game, where they're not going to block him on the backside because they expect him to chase the banana. You know, they expect him to bite the bait, chase the cheese. They expect him to fall for the banana in the tailpipe and come crashing down the line after run. And Goff is supposed to get outside of him and then hit the tight end leaking into the flats, or hit the deep cross, or hit the shallow cross coming across the field, boop, and have that run after catch. This is a game tailor-made for Ryan Kerrigan where he gets unblocked, doesn't fall for the banana in the tailpipe, comes straight after Goff. He turns around and 91's right in his face, and he's doing a showstopper dance with 2 sacks because nobody blocked him. This is a Ryan Kerrigan type of game, but you got to stay at home. Montez Sweat has been biting the bait all season long. You go back to Arizona, and you see how many times he bit in that game against Kyler Murray. He has to stay home. He has to stay home because if you don't, it's going to be a nightmare for you. They have to keep contained on the outsides and make sure that Jared Goff doesn't get outside the pocket. And he's not even an elusive guy, but it's because of how effective their fakes are, it usually works. Linebackers can't overreact to run. They just can't in this game. I just talked about how you got to stop the run, but you can't overreact to run, to that fake, because if you do, you're going to give up some really big chunk plays in this game. The Giants did a wonderful job of not overreacting until the fourth quarter when they gave up the big one to Cooper Kupp. But they, for the most part, they did a really good job of getting after Goff. They did a great job of stopping the run. And when they went play action fake, the Giants weren't going for it. And that's what you have to do. Linebackers are going to be key in this football game because a lot of their plays are based off of what the linebackers do. And if you suck up, if you're not disciplined, they're going to take advantage of it, and they don't miss. When you make a mistake, they make you pay for that mistake. That's what makes this offense so dynamic is that it's not that complex, but when you make a mistake, they're ready to pounce on it. So the backers cannot overreact to run. Limit the explosive plays. I told you that Kyle, and you know this all too often, all too much because you've seen this. He was here before. But Sean doesn't want, and I think I said Kyle, Sean doesn't, he's not necessarily looking. He's not searching and probing for the 55-yard touchdown. He'll take it if it comes like last week with Cooper Kupp. Yeah, absolutely. You make a mistake, there's a breakdown in your coverage. Yeah, they'll take the 50. But they're looking for 17, 19, 16, 15, 14, 21, 24, 22, 19, 16. They're looking for that. Constant chunk plays where they're getting the football down the field in shorter fashion. Because they ran it for 6 on first down, and now he's making it look like the same exact run that just got you for 6, pulling it out, and now he's hitting Cooper Kupp for 19. And just like that, they're into Washington territory at the Washington 49 after 2 plays. Like, that's what you got to guard against, is not giving up those chunk plays. Make them, and what I've seen is when they have to be patient, when they can't get the 19 and the 16 consistently, and they got to go 3 here, 4 here, and then they get to 3rd and 3, 3rd and 4, you can stop the Rams offensively. That's what the Giants did. Constantly getting off the field on 3rd downs. But you have to put yourself in a position where you can get off the field on 3rd downs. And by giving up chunk plays, you're not able to get off the field. Robert Woods is a technician. He runs great routes. If you fall asleep behind the wheel, he'll be open, and it's 17, and it's a 1st down. They've got some dynamic tight ends that can hurt you. Gerald Everett is an athletic tight end, but the guy you have to watch is Tyler Higbee. We've had issues with the tight end all season long, and this has been a problem for 3-4 years running now. Tyler Higbee can't have a massive game. Limit the explosive plays. Get off the field on 3rd downs. I talked about this earlier in the week, and Ron talked about this. 3rd downs have been a problem. Now, we're not terrible on 3rd downs, but the first thing Jack Del Rio talked about when he got this job, the very first thing is that, hey, this defense was 32nd in the league on 3rd downs last year. We got to change that. Well, we're struggling on 3rd down still. Now, we're 21st in the league right now, but that's not good enough. 21st in the league gets you to 1-4. 1-3, which is where we are now, and 1-4 if we continue trending in that direction. We got to find a way off the field. I watched the Giants game last week. They got off the field on 3rd downs. They got after Jared Goff. They got off the field on 3rd downs. That's what kept the score 10-9 midway through the 4th quarter. They're in that ball game with a chance to win. Is they got off the field on 3rd downs. We have to make a concerted effort to be able to do the same thing, and we got to be consistent. 4 quarters. Our problem is we'll have a quarter in the first half, maybe it's the first quarter, where we're getting off the field, and then a turnover happens and you give up a touchdown. And in the second quarter, we self-destruct, and now we're down 17-7 at halftime. Then we come out, and in the 3rd quarter, we're playing lights out again. We're getting off the field on 3rd downs, and then the 4th quarter comes, and all of a sudden, it's like we forgot how to play defense again. We've got to string together consistency for 4 quarters, and we have to find a way to do it getting off the field on third downs. And then lastly, we got to tackle better. Tackle better / generate some turnovers. It'd be nice to get at least 1 turnover. We got 2 last week, 1 coming in a situation where it was kind of insignificant when Bob Griffin threw an interception. But we got 1 right before the half last week, but it was right before the half, so we really weren't able to turn it into a touchdown, but rather just a field goal. We have to be able to tackle first and foremost. Landon Collins was horrible 2 weeks ago. He was better this week that just passed, but still, we got to tackle better, period. As an entire team, we have to tackle better, and we got to take advantage of opportunities when they come our way. If they fumble the ball, we got to pounce on it. If Jared Goff makes a mistake, we got to pick it off. If we get a chance to kick a 51-yard field goal, we got to put it through the uprights. Take advantage of opportunities, force a turnover or 2, take care of the football, tackle better, and you'll have a shot in this game versus the Rams. The Rams are not a scary team. When this season first started, I was like, man, that's a tough one, you know? But as I look at this game and I've watched them all season long, they can be dynamic if you allow them to be. Don't get it twisted. If we don't play sound defense, if we don't stay at home, they're going to beat us up. But if we do the things that we're capable of doing, and if Chase Young plays and he's healthy, we got a legitimate shot in this game. I said all of that to say this. I don't see us winning this game. I don't. 26-17 is my prediction in this game. We're going to fight like hell. And I think this is a game that is right there for the taking at 19-17. Just like the Giants, they were in the game 10-9. We're going to be rating this game 19-17. It's going to be 19-10 heading into the 4th quarter. Washington is going to get a touchdown to cut the deficit to 2 at 19-17. We're going to hang tough. And the Rams are going to put us away out of our misery with 4 minutes and 27 seconds left in the 4th quarter as Jared Goff finds tight end Tyler Higbee for the nail in the coffin touchdown from 22 yards out as the Rams win the game 26-17. So that's how I see this game going. But I think we're going to be in this game. We're going to be competitive, but I do not see us coming out with the victory. What says you? Leave it down in the comment section. How do you feel about this game? I want your score and more. Give me your prediction. What do you think is going to happen? Maybe a cliff note or 2 as to how we get to your conclusion. And I can't wait to read that. Make sure you like this video. Subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. If you haven't already done so, what are you waiting on? Make sure that you are a patron on Patreon. If you're not, you're missing out on some great content. We're going to break this film down like we've broken down the first 4 weeks of the season. So if you're not already on Patreon, go ahead and get on Patreon. I've heard nothing but great feedback from all that are on Patreon. So if you're not there, get there. And so we'll be back on Sunday after the game has met its conclusion here live for Washington football overtime, breaking down everything that went down in the game. Hopefully we'll be talking about a Washington win. But right now I'm not too sure of that because of Aaron Donald. By himself, I think he's good enough to hurt us in this game and create havoc, but we'll see what happens. So that's going to do it for me, your man Louie T. I thank you guys for watching. Remember, it's your man Louie T, and this has been Washington Football Nightly. I'll see you guys next time. Have a good one.
Here comes the diesel. Here comes the diesel. There's the snap, hand to Riggins. Good hold. He's got the first down to the 40. He's gone. The 35.